Hello and welcome back to part 17 of how to make a HexTile board game in Unreal Engine. Um, where we left off last time was we were working through more battle resolution, and we were doing when the attacker wins and there is zero casualties. And I think we got that to a point where it's pretty flawless. I'm overriding the die rolls right now, just so we always have the outcome we want to test. But we'll just double check that again. So attacker wins, can't do anything because we have to wait for the client to decide where they're going to route to. They route, and then the units committed to the attack move in. So in this case, as the attacker, we only selected this unit. We did not select this unit for the attack, so only this unit go forward. So that is working as intended. What I want to do now is if we come into our game mode turn-based, we have our die roll casualty. Close out of some of this other stuff. And our die roll number. So now I'm going to make the casualty 1. And again, I'm just overriding these so we can always have the outcome we want to test, and then we'll reconnect these pins so it's actually us running. And in this case, we're still going to have the attacker win. So I have the attacker rolling a 6, defender rolling a 0, and 1 casualty. So we're going to debug attacker wins, and now there is 1 casualty, and then we'll add on 2, 3, and so forth. And debug all that. There's one more thing I want to do in the player controller as well. So if you come into here, we did this in the last video, this update HUD text attack win client, where we're setting the text up here to how many casualties you have left. This is all fine, but when I noticed after in our HUD widget, we have a lot of that logic being done in here. And because I get kind of OCD about this stuff and like to keep it consistent, I'm going to move the logic into here. So we're going to select this, Control C to copy, come into the HUD, and paste that down here. And we don't need this. Drag this out and set it. Whoops. I'm just doing this. Again, it's just, you'll find too, especially when you have bigger projects, which this one's not very big yet, but it's just good to have some consistency in how you're doing things so it's easy to find things and change things and improve things. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So we're going to make this event within the HUD and then back within our player controller. Delete all this, keep our HUD reference, and then pull out update HUD text. Yeah, this event that we just brought in, and then connect these two. So that'll just keep that a little bit more consistent. Okay, so within our game mode, let's just think through the logic here quick. We're going to have the attacker win. We're going to have a 1 rolled for the casualties. So we will have attacker winning true, and we will have the number of casualties greater than 0. So we'll be doing this toggle casualty mode, which is running from the defending units. So they'll be selected as a potential casualty, they'll be highlighted and selected, which picks them up. The other thing we'll do is on the completion of the loop, set the number of casualties for the defending player controller, which is just setting that variable, and then showing the casualty HUD client, which I think this is probably our main event here. So in this we come in, this will not be the attacker, so this will be true. And we'll be switching, actually we're going to ignore that because we'll be switching on the 1. So right, we'll be passing 1 casualty through on this switch, which will just be showing the casualties on the HUD. Okay, and I just noticed something. So we have this logic being run here, but this one is also going to be running U1, defender resolving. Does this run every time? I thought this would only run. Oh, yeah, okay. This only runs on the attacker. And the defender runs this, which will say choose casualties, 1 remaining, 2 remaining. Okay, perfect. So I guess let's just test this quick and see how this works. So again, I'm going to select 2 as the attacker this time because I just want to double check both of them when moving. When they win, attack. Again, we overrode the die roll. And we should have 1 casualty. Okay, so both of these units are selected. Right, for the attacker, U1, defender resolving 1 casualty. Does that make sense? The defender choose casualties, 1 remaining. So I can't click to move them anywhere, which is good. And if I click on a unit, he dies. 0 casualties remain, choose tile route 2, which is good. The attacker HUD isn't updating, so that'll be something we'll have to fix. And then if we select somewhere, this is where it breaks. Okay. And before I close out of this, I'm just going to pull this off screen, but I want to leave it up because I want to do a little bit of debugging. If I can, but actually I have no idea what tile this is, so this might not work. Yeah, you can close out of it. Because I don't, usually you can select which tile you want to debug, but I have no idea which tile is which, so I'll come back to that. So 2 issues. We don't have the routing logic set up yet, and the second is the HUD for the attacker doesn't update. So maybe let's do that quick. So let's go to our BP pawn unit master. And I think this logic is within the selected and unselected. So if on click, is the player controller clicking this unit equal to the owning player controller? If true, is this unit a potential casualty, which we set in the game mode, toggle casualty mode? If that is true, remove unit casualty server, and then deduct the casualty remaining server, refresh, destroy unit server. Okay, so let's check these out quick. So this remove unit just takes it off of the tile, which is good. Deduct it from the server. Takes the number of casualties we have remaining, sets that. And then the game mode check casualty remaining. This gets set. It's the attacker, the defender. Okay, so this is where our HUD issue is. So in this case, it's the player controller, the defending player controller that's clicking the unit with the casualty. It's being set to 0. Is this the attacker attacking player controller? No, because it's the defender. So when the defender does this, the only HUD that is being updated is the player controller that's clicking. So the player controller is getting the update, the attacker is not. So now we just got to think about how do we want to do this to update the attacker and defender. And what we're going to do this for both sides. So I'm going to drag my defender player controller and put that up here. Because right now this is only going to run from the attacker. Maybe make this a little bit more clear actually. Right, we have attacker check, tech true. So this is the attacker. And this is the defender, but the information is only going to one or the other right now. So we want the other player controller to get this information too. So I think we have some logic for this, and it was the logic we built out in the last one. Just trying to remember where we did this. I think it was dice roll. No. Dice roll casualty. This update HexTile attack client. I wonder if we can do. Okay, and this is only for the attacker. All right, I'm going to adjust this one quick. So we're going to do update HUD text. When client, we're going to call this. We're going to add a new input, be a Boolean attacker 1 question mark. hold B, left click for a branch. So if the attacker won, that's going to be this line that we already did, right? If the defender wins, it's going to be the exact same thing almost, except you won attacker resolving blank casualties. Press this down through here. We might build out this logic a little bit more actually for when there's 0 left. We'll switch it to routing. But if we come back into our player controller, I'm just going to change this to be update text when client and go to the attacker. So then back within our game mode, in our check casualty remaining, we're going to run this event update HUD text when client. This and pass this through, copy and paste this down here, connect it to our attacking player controller, and pass this through. Okay. I think this should take care of that issue. So let's just do a quick test. And as I do this, I just want to think through how to handle the routing post selection. I think we could just plug into our, we should be able to just plug into our current routing logic. Okay, choose only casualty, click, dead. You won, attacker resolving 0 casualties. 0 casualties remain, choose tile to route. So this worked. I think we just gotta add in some additional logic that changes this. Say, you won. Oh, and I shouldn't say attacker. We're gonna have to come back to this, but when it's 0, it should say, in this case, defender routing, right, or something like that. And then this unit can't move still. Okay. So let's go into our player controller quick and try to fix this. Okay, we're not passing this through. That's why. Attacker 1, right? So just connect this into there. And then back within our game mode, this would be attacker 1, yes. This would be attacker 1, false. Right, just kind of match up with these. Okay. And now within our, let me think. So when we don't have, within our game mode, when we don't have casualties, so it's this false line, we toggle routing mode for the defending units, and then we do routing mode server. And this toggle route mode sets the unit as routing, highlights and selects, which is doing a lot of the same type of logic that casualty mode is, right? Highlight, select. So these two are, for all intensive purposes, identical with the exception of this. While I'm here too, let's set this variable to replicated. We missed that last time, this running variable. And then after that, we run to the defending player controller route mode server, which clears our selected units, gets a new selected unit array, triggers unit selected, add selected tile, routing. Okay. Which I don't think, let me think about this. So let's go into our player, our pawn here quick, and when we select the unit as a casualty, it's removed from the tile, it's removed from the player controller, or no, it's not. It's removing the number of casualties. What I'm really looking for is to route the units, we need the units as selected. So I'm just trying to think, they need to be within our player controller. We have this selected unit array. They need to be in this array, and I don't think we're adding them anywhere. So that's what I'm trying to check here. And so I think what we'll do is within this toggle casualty mode. Well, let me just look. Is there a better place to do this? Okay, all right. Come back to the game mode. Set off of the completed, set number of casualties server. I think what I want to do here is we're going to set these number of casualties. We're also going to grab our selected unit array. And it's very similar to what we're doing in the, where was it? Route mode server. We're almost going to copy this exact logic. The reason I'm not going to use it is because this is getting the selected unit array from the game mode, but the game mode's defending units is actually going to be out of whack because, right, if we have 2 units, one's a casualty, it's going to be killed. That's not going back to the game mode, and I don't think it really has to either. So this will be fine. It'll just be a similar-ish. Oh, no, I'm second guessing myself because this completed will run for both of these branches. So, yeah, let's just make a custom event. That's the cleanest. Okay. Sorry, guys. Kind of thinking through this as we go. So we have this event. I'm just going to copy and paste this whole thing. And compile and grab this custom event. And let's call this, I'm just going to do cas mode underscore server. And we want to make sure this is run on the server and reliable. And this is literally the same line of code with the exception of we don't want this routing yet. Okay, that's good. So let's grab both of these. Again, we can copy and paste. And do cache mode server. Just plug all these in. This is so ugly looking. Let's see if this looks better. Okay. Okay. And then within our BP pawn, when we select it, and it is a potential casualty, and that's true, when we do this deduct casualty remaining server, what I want to do here, I'm just going to drag this down, just give myself a little bit more space, maybe over a little bit, is the unit that is being selected, we want to remove from our selected unit array because we're setting that array here. So we want to take that unit out of the array for the player controller. So the player controller doesn't think that unit is selected anymore because it's destroyed. So you can just plug this in. We'll just call this destroyed unit. And kind of just slide all this over. And we'll do all of this here. Okay. Now this might clean up a lot of what we're doing, with the exception of, I think we still need the routing because I think that's a part of our selection logic. I'm in the BP hex right now. We really got to put some labels in here. Turn on decal, unclicked. Or maybe not. So what allows trying to think how our routing works. Units move to tile. Okay, so it's all handled here. We may be stuck in decision, so we'll check that. This will now be true for sure, because we're setting this. We'll have a selected tile from, thus we should, I think, have adjacent tiles. All this should work. It's on tile, move to tile, is routing, complete routing, which does this. Okay, so this part we for sure won't have. All right, let's test this and see how we're doing. We have a compiling error. Good catch, Unreal Engine. So we modified this deduct casually remaining server event by adding in the destroyed unit. All we have to do is right click, type in self, and pass that through. Now I should be able to compile and save. Okay. Choose casualty, clicked. Boom. Okay, great. So the unit did move. What hasn't happened yet is the attacking unit has moved in, and we want to update our HUDs. But that is okay. Actually, more issues. So we could click that unit again. I'm going to debug that first. If you didn't catch that, let me show you again. If you did catch it, feel free just to skip like 30 seconds forward to not have to watch this again. But we had a couple problems. So units are highlighted, right? Click, dead. Click, dead. That shouldn't happen, right? Because we only have one casualty. So let me think through where we're doing that logic again. Within our BP pawn, we have on click is a potential casualty. Remove casualty server. Or not that one. Where's our owning player controller? I think this one. Setting number of casualties. And we're doing this check casualties remaining on the game mode. But we really probably want some of this logic done elsewhere. So what we'll do, well, not necessarily done elsewhere, but done on here. So after we do this, let's grab our number of casualties. We're setting it here. I'm going to do less than or equal to. But you could just do equal to 0, but I'm just doing this just in case there's ever some weird bug where it gets to -1. This still triggers. Should never happen, but just in case. So if this is less than 0, or less than or equal to 0, then we want to get out of the casualty mode, which isn't a variable and doesn't need to be, but it is on the BP pawn because we don't want this to be triggered anymore. What we also want to stop, I think, is its highlight, which I think we have an event for that. And let's just be setting the visibility, the decal to nothing. We gotta have something that just turns it off. Maybe it's highlight casualty, and then we just do false. Okay. So back in our player controller, if this is true, grab our selected unit array, do a for each loop on the true, set casualty, set potential casualty to false, and then We'll do this highlight casualty. And we also want that as false. Okay. So that'll set this variable as false, and then this will run and turn off the decal. So then when we click on the unit, this true branch won't be running anymore, and then it will be the false, which is great. The other part we had issues with was the unit. Once we move the unit, we need a HUD update, and then we need the attacker to move in. So let me think through how we're handling that now again. And I'm just going to rearrange this, straighten this out. So when we're routing, it must be within our, no, it won't be in our HexTile. Indecision, unit selected. Okay, so it's here. We're setting. This is true. Then we then complete routing, which does some stuff within the game mode. Okay, so come back to our player controller. I think what we're going to do is when the number of casualties equals 0 off of this event, I'm just going to drag this for each loop run here, quick. Drag this over, and I'm going to grab our routing and set this to true. Right, which makes sense. Once we have no more casualties left, we need to route our army. So that makes a lot of sense, and then we can use some already existing logic we have. And let me just run through this quick, what this is doing. Move units to tile. Yep, okay. Our attacking player controller, his units will be moved to the tile, and those cycle turns. Okay, I think this should be successfully debugged. Let's see. Actually, I don't know if we have any HUD work yet, and I don't know if we did that for the scenario we were doing earlier this week either. Okay, kill this unit. Oh, that's buggy. Oh, what is going on? 1 second. I'm gonna cut here quick because I want to get rid of the time delay that happens in between the HUDs showing up and disappearing, just so I can be a little bit quicker in the debug. So 1 second. All right, I'm back. And actually got stuck down a couple rabbit holes, and I've been debugging for like an hour. But I'm going to consolidate what you guys need to worry about. What I was trying to originally do was change the delay on some of the different menus so I could debug quicker, but then I kind of opened up a can of worms. First, within your player controller, so I should have done this more recorded, but I got in kind of a weird debug mode, and there's some things jacked up that I created when I was testing some things that wouldn't be relevant to you guys. But anyway, so come into your player controller, and when we on this casualty mode server, so when we go into the mode where we're selecting the unit to kill, you need to check or set is decision on. So you don't have this right now. Drag this out, set, and then do true. The reason for this is when we are in a decision, we can't move units to tiles. What was happening is when both units popped up for casualties, you had to pick one. You could move those units because this wasn't firing as false. So you put this in decision as true, that cleans that up. Then, because this is marked true, when we come into our deduct casually remaining server, when this is less than or equal to 0, we then need to set routing on, which I think you all should have, but then set this is decision off. So that will then allow us to move the remaining units to the tile we're routing to. The other thing I had to fix, and honestly, this I don't really understand, but go into your BP pawn and I'll try to explain it. This event doesn't exist for you guys, right? So this is on the unclicked unit pawn, right? We're doing all this logic. This is something different. This is a new event I made, and I made that right here. Remove from tile server. So this is removing the unit, right? The unit from the tile that owns them. This logic right here that I'm selecting was up here. What's happening is when the client clicks on a pawn, it's running on the server or on the client side. So remember actors and players, right? There's a server component or existence of it and a client existence of it. And the owning tile, for whatever reason, is different between the server and the client. And I can't figure out why. Even though owning tile is replicated, we're only setting it on the server, and thus the server variable should replicate to the client, but it's not. But also doesn't matter as long as our logic that's involving the owning tile is handled in the server. But because on clicked from the client, it's being handled on the client, what was happening is the unit wasn't removing itself from the server side of the, and I'll show you what this looks like, of the units on tile array. You already have this. Every time we routed after a casualty, when the attacker came in, the server still thinks there's a unit there, and so it tries to trigger another attack. So all that to say, whether that makes sense or not, the solve here is move the stuff you have here, which is these, move these out of the way, and make a custom event. Oh, my power cut out. I'm back now. So, I don't know where it cut out. I'll check, I guess, in the video. But so, bring this stuff down, make a custom event, remove from tile server, make sure it's run on server and reliable, and then run that event off the true for both of these. Remove from tile server. So this will then run this logic of removing the unit from the tile, and because this unit's on tile array is replicated, that'll all be good. So once you do that, there's one other thing that wasn't all that important, and I don't remember it, but it's not that big of a deal. I don't think it was doing anything. Okay, so we'll come back now and debug this again. I added these texts to like a tile indicator. It's mostly for debugging, but I'll show you guys how to do that at the end too, if you want that. So, okay, let's have blue attack red in battle. Attacker wins, continue. Kill him, move him there, boom. Attacker moves in, and we're good to go. Let's see, I can go here, just make sure everything's still, it works right, moving. Okay, awesome. So I think that works, and then because we cycle our turns at the end of all this, right, it sets the HUDs right. The last thing we just got to do here is if we come back into our game mode, set our number of casualties to 2. So this should be pretty quick for us to do. Casualty mode, not that. Casualty mode server. I think it's this. Set number of casualties. No. I thought we had some logic somewhere that says. Maybe it's in here. Yeah, okay. Off the game mode, show casualty HUD client. Off of here, if it's a 0, we do the route army in our HUD. 0 casualties remain. Choose tell up to. Makes sense. But do we have casualties will be greater than 0, so we'll toggle casualties. I thought we had some pre-existing logic. I don't know if we do, though. Basically, right, because I guess it's just tested, but because our army equals 2, and we're going to have 2 casualties, right, the army should just be wiped, right? Lose all of them. Nowhere to route to. But I thought we had built that logic earlier, but now I'm thinking maybe we didn't. Choose casualties. Why did the... Oh, what's going on? I don't know why the attacker lost there. I shouldn't have. Failure attacker win. Okay. Yeah, to... Right, and then we don't want that to work. So, let's think about this. I think let's do this logic here. So set number of casualties server. So this is a server event. This sets the 2. We can, well, let me check one more thing. This is greater. We do casualty mode, and this is what sets our unit. Okay. So in the set casualty server, we'll just do a check. Is this less than equal to 0? And if that's true, we don't even need to route. We just need to do the trying to think how we're doing this. If this is true, routing off, indecision off. And then when we move to a tile, we do routing complete. I think we can just do this. Well, actually, we'll have to destroy the army first. So this isn't going to work yet. Come back in. Zero. Oh, okay. This is what I was thinking. Army destroyed off of the 3. Okay, so I'm going to switch this text there to just your army is destroyed, and then I think we can use this logic. This is going to... Okay, so show casualties. We're running out of space. I'm going to drag all this over. And what we're going to do here, I'm going to drag all this over a little bit more. I just want to check one thing. This is run after we set. So if let's grab our selected unit array. and get length. No, is it just length? Yeah, length. If this is greater than or equal to this, and actually, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to do a not. So if this is not true, we run the code we already got. If it is true, right, so not, double negative, that is just going to do the army destroyed. Which then will change our HUD to just say your army is destroyed. And I don't know, we can touch this up. You lost. Your army is destroyed. Okay, so I'll clean up the HUD. But we still need to destroy the armies. So let's handle that logic, this event. So if the number of casualties is less than or equal to, or is less than or equal to, we got to get the length, right? Actually, what am I thinking here? If the number of casualties is greater than or equal to the length of our selected units, so right, this is a 3 and this is a 2, that would be true. If that is true, we want to do the logic where we select this unit as a casualty, which, what do we call that? Army destroyed server. So let's grab this, do a for each loop. 1 second. All right, for each loop, drag this down because it's going to run off of var completed. Army destroyed server. So for each loop, army destroyed server. And then we'll do the routing complete, which we don't really have. Okay, let's test this out. Attacks in battle. Continue. One of the units is still selected. Okay, let me debug this. Alright, I got this bug fixed. I honestly did figure out exactly what was causing it, but it's something. We had this unit destroyed, and actually I think it was army destroyed server. I renamed it unit destroyed. It's our BP pawn. I had that plugged in like right here, which I don't know. For whatever reason, it's something on this deduct casualty remaining server that when it comes through here, it was screwing up. So what I did instead in the BP unit pawn, I moved this event unit destroyed server, previously called army destroyed server, so that you might have it titled as that. I moved that out of the way and I copied this event and this, paste those down here. And then the other event I brought in was the remove unselected unit, which is already pre-existing in our player controller. And it just removes the specific unit from the selected unit array, does some other stuff. But we can reuse that event here. So we remove it from the tile, remove it from the player controller, then destroy it. And that will do it for both. So now when I come back in, attack again, Continue. Right bolt dead. Other player moves in. Perfect. So the last piece of testing we just need to do, and this should be relatively mundane, although I've thought that for a lot of this, and there's been a lot more bug fixes we had to do. We're going to switch this to 3. So in this case, the number of casualties is greater than the amount of armies on the tile. This should work the exact same way we just did. Continue. Good, dead. Unit moves in. And the last thing I want to check is I'm going to switch this to a 1. And as our client, I'm going to move one of these units off the tile. Right, so now it's going to be a 1-on-1, and I just want to make sure that the logic is still working. Again, this should, just being extra thorough. Continue. Dead. Unit moves in. Beautiful. And the last piece of logic, if you bump this up to 2, let's just make sure client to server is working as intended. So let's grab both of these units. Attack. Begin battle. Attacker wins. Boom. Cool. I think that looks good. And then the last thing, you can skip this, completely optional, but if you want these little texts here, like I said, I'm mostly for debugging, but I don't know. It might be kind of fun to have on here, especially in multiplayer. Like, you want to message one guy, like, hey, attack tile 37 or whatever. Could be kind of fun. So if you want it, go to your BP tile grid manager, BP HexTile, open both of these. And so within our BP grid manager, but we have a row index, which if we pull up the CSV, not that. I don't have it open. Either way, oh here, I'll show you here. Right, there's a row index, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you can do is we're going to pull off of the row index. So we have this event starting settings, and this is in our BP HexTile. Add a variable here called text, and we just call this text. And then back within the grid manager, just pass, you might have to do a file refresh all nodes to get this variable to show up. What you do is you take this out row index and pass that through to here, and it will automatically convert it to a from an integer into a text for you. And then what you do back in your BP tile, we close grid manager. If you go into the viewport, let me turn this back on. You can add a text render, so add a component text render. And for me, I have it at locations to -120, Y -10, Z 50, rotation 0, 180. Right, you can place it however you want, right? Move around with the arrows, whatever you want to do. Oh, one thing too to set is horizontal alignment and vertical alignment right down here. Switch at the center and text center. I think that's easier to navigate it around. So once you have that set, if you come back into your event graph, you should have your text coming through here. I'm setting this as a variable, and I'm making this variable replicated. And I added another sequence here, right? So you had 0 and 1. I added a then 2 by setting this pin. That's this line code coming up here. Then when you pull your text render off, you can come off this and do set text. It's not this top one, it's this one, set text. And then you can do set visibility, hit that true, pass through your text variable into the set text. And then I do a delay of 2 seconds, and then I run a custom event text multicast, which passes this text variable through, and a Boolean, which is right here, set to multicast reliable. This gets it so the clients can see, and this delay is important. So make sure you do this. I'll explain it though. And then set text and set visibility. So I'll just keep this up on the screen here for a second so you can look at that or pause. The reason this delay is important is the client initializes, the client instance initializes after the server instance. So when a player joins the game, the server joins like slightly first, and then the client of the same computer, if that makes sense. So what happens is if you don't have this, I put 2 seconds. It could be like 0.5. Like you might be able to make it less. But if you don't have a delay, this multicast will run before the client is even in the game. Thus, they won't see it. And because I don't, well, and actually, we might be able to just replicate this. This might solve the whole thing. Let me check this quick. I discontinued this. Component replicates. Now I'm thinking about this. I think we can do this without multicast. Yeah, so, right, the text isn't setting. I don't think there's a way to, if we come back, yeah, I don't think there's a way around it. It's a pretty easy fix. Just run a multicast. So yeah, do that. You can get that in there. I think that wraps everything up for this video. We'll continue debugging. It's taking longer than I thought to do these debugs, but what we're going to do next is when the attacker loses. I think that should be simpler because there's no routing, right? You just go, when you lose, you pick your casualties, you go back to the tile you came from. But yeah, we'll see. After that, that's the meat and potatoes of this game, right? I mean, the battle dynamics. So once we complete that debugging, that gets a lot of the guts of this project done. I mean, that's pretty complex logic that we're going through and problem solving. I think what I'll work on next is like capturing the sacred sites. So if you have 2 of the 3 captured, game over, you win. After that, buying units at your keep. And then after that, we will build out a lot more of the round logic. So as rounds, you can only move on your turn, that kind of stuff. You get gold after every turn, or whatever it's going to be. Implement in when you can buy units, that kind of stuff, and actually get the flow of the game going. So we'll have, the econ done, the battles done, the objectives done, and then we'll get into actually like building the main menu, creating servers, inviting people to servers, the multiplayer aspect, and then that'll be it. So still a lot of work in front of us, but finishing up the unit battle part of this, I think, will be really big. So thanks again for watching. Again, I've got the Discord up. Feel free to join. Really nice because you can post screenshots. So if you're having problems, that's a good place for me to help you out. And then like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.